Hello and welcome to the channel. Today, obviously, as I promised yesterday when we were doing our live stream, that this is going to be a Q&A, live Q&A session. No bakwas, seedhi baat, right? That kind of a thing. Your questions, I will try and sort of take in as many questions as I can. I have exactly an hour and 5 or some minutes, and we'll try and do as many questions as we can. Okay. So without wasting your time, let's start with the first question. It says, what about OINP audit report? Well, I do not know what you mean. What about it? There is a lot of fraud that has been uncovered. There are a lot of penalties that will be applied to fraudulent practitioners and otherwise, and there will be more misrep findings. But other than that, I'm not sure what else is that you are looking for here. Next one is, what's the criteria to claim owner-operator 200 points? Well, the criteria to claim owner-operator 200 points is that you have an LMIA. And if it's an owner-operator, means it's from your own business where you own at least 51% of the share from that business. So you obviously have applied for an LMIA from your own business for yourself. Obviously, you will then get that LMIA in your name. And you will then be able to apply for a work permit, therefore claiming those 200 points. However, any work that you are then performing in that work permit, on that work permit in that business, unfortunately will not be eligible for any Canadian experience points. That's the game. So that's what you need to understand, and that's what the owner-operator LMIA is all about. Sorry, Shankar says AOR September 5, biometric instruction letter in tracker, background in process, eligibility not started. Shouldn't eligibility have been started at least by now? Well, I do not know who identifies these timelines as in what should start when. There is no specific timeline as to what should start when, what is the processing time to complete this, that, or that. The average processing time for an application is 6 months on an average, and the time of 6 months starts from the time they have started their completeness check or they have completed the completeness check, which is the R10. So when you get your AOR, that is when the completeness check has been done. That is for a non-express entry application. For the express entry applications, that is when you get your medical report or the medical pass, or you get your biometric instruction letter. That's when your completeness checks have been done. 6 months on an average processing time starts from that. If it is a non-express entry application, the average processing time is available on the RCC website. As of right now, it varies anywhere between 14 to 18 months after you get your AOR. So that's the average processing time. There is no specific timeline as to when would the eligibility start, when the criminality process will start, when the background will start. No specific timelines for that. Should I include my travel history for Canada? I came for work, visited the US and returned. I haven't left since then. Should it be marked as ongoing? Absolutely, it should be marked as ongoing. You do not need to include travels between your country of residence and your home country. However, to establish that this is now your country of residence, your first trip should indicate that you have arrived in Canada and that you are continuing to live in Canada, and therefore that trip is ongoing. Any other international trips that you will make from Canada would then be included in your travel history, as in from Canada back to Canada, because that's your country of residence. I hope that helps. Nothing there. Rucha says, I worked 24 hours per week in September and October as a student before the rule change. How can I fix this without affecting my postgraduate work permit? You don't need to sort of do this, right? And you don't need to, okay, I get it. So you're saying that it was supposed to be 20 hours per week, and now it is 24 hours per week. Well, you can't really change it. You can just briefly give an explanation and request for their compassion. That's primarily all that you can do. Nothing much that can be done. That's primarily it. You're not going to be providing your pay stubs or your employment details anyways. However, if you are indicating your work experience or your background, your hours, then please just request for compassion and explain you are not aware. I am on work permit and already got LMIA approved, but my points are 513. Still will be able to get 50 points or not? Well, as of today, though the announcement has already been made that the LMIA points will be taken off, the details haven't come. The implementation or the effective date hasn't been announced. So as of today, you can still take your 50 points for the LMIA if you have it. As and when the announcements happen, then from that date, we will then realize what the exact effect of this announcement, this changes, and on that date, your points may no longer be valid if you are a part of that impact. Excuse me. Applying for postgraduate work permit plus spouse open work permit extension. I have US startup offer with EOR. If I accept, would it be considered for spouse open work permit extension? Well, the requirement is that in order for you to apply for your spouse open work permit, you should be currently working already in Canada. It cannot be for a future offer date because that is applicable for the LMIA, closed work permit applications. So not only LMIA, all closed work permit applications. So in your case, if you are applying for a postgraduate work permit, you should already have been working part-time as a student or whatever that might be. And part of your documentation would be included in your spouse's open work permit application. That would be your employment letter, the job roles and responsibilities, salary, working hours, and of course, your 3 most recent pay stubs. So if the company is not a Canadian company, then unfortunately, that would not make your spouse open work permit application eligible for it to be applied. Nothing here. I got nominated for OINP International Student Stream in September, and my status is DIP right now. DIP is decision in progress. My postgraduate work permit expiration is January 25. If I don't get approval until my expiry date, should I apply for work permit extension or visitor record? You can choose to apply for a work permit extension with the explanation that this is what your status is right now. If you will apply for visitor record, the problem there is that you will no longer be eligible to apply for a bridge open work permit at a later date once you have already received your nomination, once you have got your ITA and submitted your PR application. So to avoid the fact that you are not able to apply for a bridge open work permit, please do not apply for a visitor record. You can choose to apply for an extension with the explanation and explaining your situation. And then once you do get your AOR, you can also submit the AOR to IRCC. And at the same time, of course, make an application for bridge open work permit. Or in the meantime, you can also allow your status to expire. You would then have 90 days to restore your status. Within that 90 days, you can if you get your ITA, if you submit your PR application, then you can still apply for a bridge open work permit. These are your options. But if you apply for a visitor record, then unfortunately, you are no longer eligible to apply for a bridge open work permit at a later date. Sorry, there's nothing here. I came in January for culinary skills and I've converted culinary skills to culinary management in September 24. My permit expired in April. Permit will expire in April 25 and I'm extending study permit. Will I get postgraduate work permit? I don't see any reason why not, because you are continuing your studies. You haven't changed that program after the 1st of November when the whole impact of the changes in terms of the program being linked to postgraduate work permit happened. So in your case, in my opinion, I think the fact that you have already you already started your culinary management in September 2024, which was much earlier than the November programs that the changes came out about. So therefore, I think you should be fine with your postgraduate work permit application. OINP Tech 489 chances due to lower PNP invites. I can't give you any chances. Unfortunately, I do not know. It all depends on the provinces as to the number of invitations they issue and as and when they conduct the draws. I have experience running my business in India as manager owner. I was on postgraduate work permit then. Can I claim foreign work experience? I have all the proofs. Not going to be easy, but technically, yes, you can. You can have concurrent experiences. You will have to choose which work experience you will be using. It's not going to be easy, especially if it's your own business, showing yourself as a business owner and showing that you are actively involved in that business while you're not really there. It's not going to be easy. But technically, if you're asking me on the technicality, as far as IRCC is concerned, well, you can have concurrent experiences, but at any given point of time, you can only choose 30 hours per week because that is the maximum period of work experience that you can gain points for. How much time PR support LMIA takes? 118 days wait. As of right now, the processing times of PR LMIA applications is roughly 9 months. I received an ITA. Is it okay to include birth certificate to prove citizenship? Since my child is a Canadian citizen, I mark them as accompanying. Well, first of all, if your child is a Canadian citizen, the child has to be marked as non-accompanying. Otherwise, the system will prompt you to also pay the fee for your child to be included. And number two, you can also explain that your child is non-accompanying in your application because the child is already a Canadian citizen. And yes, you can add your child's birth certificate and provide an explanation that you don't have your child's passport yet, but you are, or if you have the child's passport copy as well, then you can also provide a copy of that. And of course, the birth certificate. Removal of LMIA points impacts those who are waiting for ECOPR under PNP E category LMIA exempt closed work permit. No, it will not impact those because these LMIA points removal will only impact newer applications, people who haven't yet been invited or submitted. But again, more clarity is awaited once it is announced. I want to know if we can travel out of the country and return when work permit extension is in process and still have valid work permit. Well, it depends. If it's a postgraduate work permit, then yes, you can travel outside Canada, come back and continue as an implied status of your work permit. For any other work permit, if you choose to leave Canada, then you lose your implied status. And once you return back, if you have a valid TRV, you would be admitted in Canada as a visitor. And unfortunately, you will not be you will not be allowed to work. You can only visit, of course, and you can only start working after you get your work permit. My company sent me to India to train their employees for 1 month. Would this count towards my work experience? Good question. This would be discretionary in this case because this would be part of your business activity or your commercial activity that you are performing in Canada. So if your company is sending you on a business activity, business trip outside Canada, then ideally it is still included as part of your work experience. You may have to explain the situation. Would I still be eligible for postgraduate work permit if I work 3 to 4 hours over the limit per week? Do they average out the hours, or how is the eligibility calculated? Well, every time that you are working beyond the authorization of work, in that case, you are considered to be in non-compliance of IRPA, non-compliance of immigration laws, and therefore you become ineligible for any other immigration application. However, in this case, because there was this huge confusion about this 24 hours a week, when will it be implemented or when it will not be implemented, in your case, you can always explain. First of all, in your postgraduate work permit application, there is no place where you have to disclose how many hours per week you were working, first of all. So that doesn't really count. Number two, if you do have to explain, then you would have obviously give the explanation about the misunderstanding based on the announcements that were being made on the media. And that was the reason, and then request for compassion. For spouse open work permit, I am aware that I should be working with EOR. It will be Canadian company that will hire me. So I'll get T4 and all. Well, if it's a Canadian company, so that's why, I mean, we can leave the fact of that it's an American company or whatever that might be. So if it's a Canadian company and you're on a Canadian payroll and you get a Canadian job offer saying that you're working in Canada for a Canadian company on a Canadian payroll, you get your roles and responsibilities, then most certainly you can apply. You can make an application for your spouse open work permit, but you will also need some pay stubs. I'm on a postgraduate work permit working full-time in Canada and remotely as a business consultant overseas. After 1 year, can I claim CRS point for skilled foreign work? I have proper documentation and bank statements. Technically, yes, you can. So you'll have to choose whether you're claiming your work experience in Canada for Canadian experience, or you're working for or if you're claiming points for your foreign experience. Technically, you can. As I said, concurrent work experience is allowed. However, at any given point of time, maximum period of work experience that you can claim for is 30 hours per week. So you'll have to choose which work experience it's going to be. I'm working in a company for 2 years, but due to shortage of work, I worked 1.8 months as per 30 hours per week, but express entry profile automatically updated as 2 years. 18, you're saying 1.8 months, so I'm not sure what do you mean by 1.8 months. Now, I worked 1.8 months as per 30 hours. So I'm not sure exactly what the situation here is, but if you have received an ITA earlier, then you have completed your exact period of work, then the recommendation is continue with your application, because the system, express entry system, is known to have this glitch where it calculates or it rounds up as per the month here. And in this case, continue with this application only if you are able to complete your legal period of work for which you are claiming points within the 60 days, within the period of which that you have to submit your application. If you are able to do that, then continue with your application. If you're not able to do that, or if you're still falling short of the legal period of work, then you will have to decline your ITA. Have full-time job offer, have not got PGWP yet. I have no idea what the question here is. I'm not sure what you're trying to ask. Did you ask something earlier as well? Yeah, don't know what you're asking, my friend. Sorry. My passport is getting expired in July 25 and the same for my study permit. If I apply for a renewal of passport, do I need to apply for a study permit again? My program will be finished in April 2025. You don't need to, because your program will be finished by April 2025. You don't really need to apply for another study permit extension in such case. Of course, get your passport renewed, because you will certainly need it when you will apply for your postgraduate work permit. Once you finish your program in April 2025, then go ahead and apply for your postgraduate work permit, because your study permit will still be valid until July 25. So you will still have ample of time to complete your postgraduate work permit application. CRS is 501. Eligible OINP masters outside GTA. I will be in India till end of Jan. Should I create expression of interest now or end of January? Well, you should create your expression of interest after you have completed your master's degree. That would be the right thing to do. And of course, you can have your express entry profile available, also valid and in the pool, and that should work. I don't know what else you're asking me. PCC from India? No, your police clearance, if you're making an application, should be from outside India, considering India is not your country of residence. Software developer full-time from September to September to September to September on study permit. I did mention this in PR experience section. Should I include it in personal section? Not really sure what you're trying to ask me, but if there is any period of work for which you're not claiming points, that has to be included in your personal activities or your personal history section. No PNP EEE COPAR for more than 2 months in sight. Yes, we have already discussed about this. This is primarily because 2024 permanent resident targets have already been achieved. Permanent resident levels plan targets have been achieved. Therefore, the COPRs will start getting issued next year, which is 2025. Will the employers need to pay fees like 230 to hire from outside Canada under the new FCIC program? Also, when can we receive an update from about this from the government? Well, this FCIC program, which is Francophone Community Immigration Class Program, has already been announced in the Gazette on the December the 14th. Therefore, it would be my assumption that this will formally be announced sometime early next year. And after you have applied for the endorsement and you've got the endorsement, you've made your application for permanent residence, you can apply for a work permit. And yes, your employer will need to pay a $230 compliance fee in order for you to apply for a work permit. I applied spousal sponsorship for my spouse from Montreal in July. However, till now, there is no response and AOR. Is there any way we can track the status? Also, please suggest, should I move to another province? No, you don't need to move to another province. If it is an application from Quebec, it can take sometimes longer time in terms of processing of your application. You will also need to apply for CSQ after, you will need to apply for the, what was the document called, from the Quebec. If you change your province at this point of time, it's not really going to make much of a difference. If that was the case, you should have done it earlier. But at this point of time, you will just, there's nothing you can do to track your AOR. You can always call IRCC and check with them, but you won't get much information because you won't even have your temporary file number. So the suggestion is just to sort of have a bit of patience and wait. This should come about, because the Quebec applications usually move slower. In Canada, no visit visa, valid spouse open work permit, received spouse sponsor PR or AOR, valid US visa. Can I travel to US and return? Can kids on visitor record? First of all, I can't understand here. In Canada, no visit visa. So I do not know what you mean by no visit visa. Valid spouse open work permit. So basically, you mean to say you have no TRV. Received spouse sponsor PR AOR, valid US visa. Can I travel to the US and return? If you have a valid status in, honestly, I'm not able to understand here, but I'll just try to make some sense out of it. If you have a valid status in Canada and you have a valid US visa, yes, you can go to the US and you can return back even if you do not have a TRV. Always check with the CBSA officer before you are leaving Canada. That way, always you are on the clear side. Can kids on visitor record return too? Yes, they can. As far as any complications is concerned, well, on the day when you arrive back, and if you find an officer who may not be aware of certain application processes and rules, then you might face a certain lengthier process of complication, of questioning. But other than that, there is no complication. You can also check IRCC's website. It will tell you very clearly that even if you don't have a TRV, but you are on a valid status in Canada, you can go to the US, visit, and return back. I got full-time offer letter. Applied for postgraduate work permit. Need urgent PGWP as I have to accept offer. Can I contact IRCC for urgent processing? Unfortunately, there is no provision for expedited or urgent processing. You will just have to inform your employer that IRCC, when you apply for postgraduate work permit, gives you a letter that shows that you can start working, and their employer either should be aware of it or should have to make do with it. What LMIA points impact on LMIA exempt closed work permit? Well, no impact. If there is no LMIA, then there is no impact. At least that's our opinion. Please wait for the final announcements to be made, and then you will have a better clarity. Can my PR get finalized while I'm out of status and waiting for restoration, or have to wait for restoration first? Already got AOR. Well, it all depends how far away are you from the time your status has expired. In some cases, IRCC may first wait for your status to be restored, because if your status is not restored and you are continuing to stay in Canada, at that point of time, you are in non-compliance of the immigration laws. And based on that, you are inadmissible to Canada. And based on that, your PR application should ideally not be finalized. So it all depends on how far you are in the restoration period. And based on that, IRCC can make that decision and call. Any update on tier 4, 5 Gazette notification? At this point of time, no. And there was never the case that tier 4 or 5 will be included in express entry system. That was never the case. They just said or indicated that they will have another pathway for tier 4 or 5. They never said that they will be included in express entry system. And as of right now, no, at least I haven't seen any Gazette updates for tier 4, 5. Do you have any idea about healthcare draws? Well, the idea that I have is that the healthcare draws hopefully should continue. I'm not sure if there was any other question there. Can I own a franchise on study permit and PR? Help. Yes, you can own a franchise on study permit and PR help. Of course, you cannot exceed the hours that you are otherwise allowed to work while you're on a study permit. I got my open work permit in January 24. The employer is based in Ontario. However, I am moved to Ontario in November 24. How will my experience be counted from Jan 24 to November 24? Well, depends on where were you between Jan 24 to November 24. If you are not in Canada, then that is not Canadian work experience. That's all I can say. If you are in a different province, that doesn't matter, as long as you're working remotely and your employer was okay about you working remotely. For express entry, do we apply for bridge open work permit after AOR or only after passing R10 in biometrics? You apply for bridge open work permit after AOR. It will be processed only after you have completed the R10. Is there a rejection risk before R10? Yes, there is a rejection risk if your bridge open work permit goes in the processing queue and for whatever reason goes through processing very quickly, and the officer is assessing your application and realizes that there is no R10 in your application, which means that your application has not passed the completeness check, then the officer may choose to refuse the application. So it's a rare occurrence, but it does happen in some cases. Express entry 476. OINP 55, work permit expiry. What are the chances of LMIA work permit? What is the minimum wage requirement for high wage LMIA? Well, for minimum wage requirement, please check the job bank. That will give you what the minimum wage requirement or the median wage requirement for your NOC code is. As far as chances are concerned, please check through the old draws to establish what the scores have been invited earlier. My postgraduate work permit is expiring in November 25 and my wife is on spouse open work permit. If now she studies for master's education, will she and I get postgraduate work permit and spouse open work permit again? Yes, you can do that. If, of course, in the past, your wife has never got a postgraduate work permit. And by this switch, yes, you can do it. No problem with that. My CRS is CEC 475 without LMIA. Any chance next year if they remove 50 points for LMIA? I can't tell you. It all depends on IRCC as to how many draws they conduct, how frequently they conduct, and how many invitations they invite. And of course, also how many people continue to get added into the pool with scores, higher scores than yours. I got LMIA in February 24, which is valid till July 25. Am I going to get 50 points to July 31st or it will be removed? Well, at this point of time, it is indicated that they will be removing the points for LMIAs I do not know who will be impacted and how it will impact. We are waiting for further clarifications and information from IRCC when this will be implemented. So we will know it. And when we know it, you will know it. Our postgraduate work permit expiring in Feb 25. We have CRS 525. Can I take study in private college and get SOWP for my spouse? No, you cannot. If you are studying in a private college, it may not be eligible for a postgraduate work permit. And of course, if you're also studying a diploma program, then your spouse is not eligible for a open work permit. The only time you can get an open work permit is if you are studying a professional degree, or if you are studying master's degree, only then you are eligible for a spouse open work permit. GTS closed work permit valid till Jan 26. Can I do 1 year diploma course inside Canada to get Canada study points? No, you cannot. You will need a study permit to complete a program which is longer duration than 6 months. After getting job offer JOFW OINP nomination, can the spouse of the applicant apply for an open work permit at the same time applicant apply for closed work permit, spouse on study permit now? Yes, if you are making an application under the LMIA exempt support letter that you will get from Ontario. So you will be applying for closed work permit. At the same point of time, your spouse can also apply for an open work permit. Just make sure you provide the correct documentation with regards to your job offer and your current employment. I'm CEC outlined with AOR 17th August, call IRCC couple of times, and also as per tracker, everything is completed. Just security screening remains, not started since 15 months. Eligibility got completed November 4th. Okay, so what's the question? So I'm sorry, I don't know what the question here is. I hope you'll get your processing completed as soon as possible. The average processing time for most applications is 6 months, and in some cases they may also go to 7 to 8 months. At this point of time, since we are towards the end of the year and the PR targets have already been met, the finalization of applications has slowed down. Even COPRs are not being issued. So hopefully early next year you should get your decision. PR portal updated to closed and accepted. Does it mean PR card is mailed? Yes, in most cases that is what it would mean. You can also try and link your permanent resident card application to your GC key to see what the final update there is. Applying for BCPNP postgraduate, no job offer, no work experience. Am I eligible for express entry BCPNP international postgraduate for job seeker validation code? No, you are not. The BCPNP international. First of all, there is no express entry BCPNP international postgraduate. That stream is not existing. It's express entry BCPNP, which is the skilled worker skilled worker under the express entry. So the postgraduate international, so BCPNP international postgraduate is non-express entry. It is not linked to express entry, and you definitely need a job offer. Kindly take a look at the BCPNP website instead of asking me for the criteria. I'm sure you'll be able to better see it there and better find it over there. Can I add non-continuous Indian work experience from 2017, second doing now 7 months, making 1 year to gain 50 points under CEC? Yes, you can. There is no problem with that. As long as you're already eligible in a Canadian experience class, then you can have a discontinuous work experience, and you can use that cumulative work experience and add it as 1 year work experience. What documents are expected in client section for spouse open work permit? Well, you should provide the principal applicant's employment letter. It should include the job information, the job duties, the working hours, the salary, the job title, of course, the 3 pay stubs, the proof of relationship, proof of funds. This is what you really need. Is it safe to pursue property purchase while waiting for ECOPR? Well, you can purchase your property at any point of time. There is no issues there at all. Is there any rejection after P2? Yes, there can always be a rejection even after P2. We have seen it in some cases. Changing employers through PP change work 2020 works. If you're asking for getting an authorization to start working before your work permit has been issued, yes, you can still request IRCC for interim work authorization while your work permit is in progress. Can I work for Indian employer for 32 hours a week in India while working for CA employer remote full-time from India? You can, but this will not count as Canadian work experience. If you are outside Canada, the work experience that you complete for an employer in Canada remotely outside Canada is not Canadian experience. Whatever you are doing for your work in India or even for the Canadian employer will be counted as foreign work experience, not as Canadian experience. Kumar is my first and middle name, but not in my educational documents. Can an Indian affidavit suffice, or does it need notarization in Canada? Well, you only need a one and same person affidavit, and it can be notarized anywhere, wherever the person who's signing this document is. So if you are in India, you will notarize it in India. If you are in Canada, you will notarize it in Canada. Any PGWP eligible courses possible without IELTS or any English test in Canada? Will Miller cancel asylum cases of people on any previous visas? Postgraduate eligible courses, well, ideally you should be able to prove that you have the English proficiency to complete that course. So there might not be a requirement for English language in some cases, but you will have to be able to prove that you can you have the English proficiency to undertake that course. As far as asylum cases being cancelled is concerned, well, there is a lot of thought being given. We do not know the details, but they are trying to make it more efficient. They are trying to make it more stringent, and chances are that yes, they could try and adjudicate the applications for asylum claims faster, so that they can be declined if they are identified as illegitimate claims. Spouse work permit extension for spouse of postgraduate DIP student. Guys, when you're asking these questions, can you please type it properly, because you're expecting me, because I'm going through the questions very quickly so I can get in as many as I can. But when you're going to be writing in such short words and expecting me to understand what you're trying to think, it's not going to happen. So instead of you losing out on that question opportunity, then please type your question carefully, properly. Spouse open work permit extension for spouse of postgrad DIP student affected by changes. Should postgraduate work permit extension be applied to JADA? I have casual and student job. I have no idea what you're asking. As of right now, spouse open work permits are not impacted. The only time that the changes have been that you have to be a master's degree student to apply for a new spouse open work permit. If it is an extension, then it will not make any difference. If you are applying for postgraduate work permit, you can also apply for your spouse open work permit extension only if you are working. And any kind of work is fine, but if you are working, tier code 012345, all of them are acceptable as of right now. You should be working. You should add your employment letter, which should include your job roles and responsibilities, salary, working hours, etc., as well as at least 3 pay stubs. So I cannot claim 30 hours a week Canadian experience and 30 hours a week overseas experience simultaneously. Of course not. You can only claim 30 hours per week. I mean, what you're trying to say is you want to claim 60 hours per week, which is not acceptable as per the immigration laws. My LMIA for PR spot by my employers, as now no points on LMIA. I'm planning to quit the job. Will it affect my PR application future? LMIA, I have no idea what you're asking me. I have no idea what you're asking me. I'm really sorry, but I just can't understand what you're asking me. If LMIA is in the process, then you can only claim points for it after you have got it. As far as I'm sorry, but I just can't understand what you're asking me. You will get points for it if you are working for that employer. If it's a PR supporting LMIA, yes, you have to be working for that employer. Only then it will make sense. Nothing here, nothing here, nothing here. I got my first email for PR, the one in which they ask your details like height. I currently reside in India. My file is under AIP. How long do you think I will get before I get my COPR? Well, it should come through soon, probably early next year. But if you are not in Canada, then you should just get a passport request. So please just check that first email that you have. Is it also your passport request? Because if you're not in Canada, then you will not get emails confirming whether you're in Canada or your ECOPR. You will be sent a passport request where you will be sending your passport through VFS to the Canadian Embassy. So please check that email to see what exactly it is asking you to do. Because when it is asking you to do your height, when it is asking for the details of your height and eye color, it would also ask you to submit that information along with your passport to VFS. In continuation to the earlier chat, there was a temporary policy in July 23 where work holder can do study without study permit. I was referring to that. I am sorry, Ujjan, I've forgotten what your earlier question is because you're expecting me to remember while I'm going through so many questions so quickly. Okay, I get it. You're asking me if you can get study points while you were also on work permit, because there was an earlier policy where you could study while you were working. The policy was correct. However, you cannot get points for having studied without a study permit. That exemption was only given for people so that they can also, study and probably, grow for their careers, etc. So that provision was only to study, just to study. But it does not give them points because you did not have a study permit at that point of time. I'm on CEC pool with 522 points. My postgraduate work permit expires in Feb. Can I apply for an open work permit or restoration? Also, any hopes for CEC in general? Well, I would expect CEC to continue. Postgraduate work permit expires in Feb. Can I apply for an open work permit? Well, technically, there is no provision to apply for extension. As far as restoration is concerned, in order to get a restoration application, you first have to be out of status. By that time, if you've already been invited and you have submitted a PR application, you have an AOR, then you can apply for restoration and you can apply for a bridge open work permit in such case. My work permit is expiring in January. Do I have any options to extend my stay in Canada? Well, you can always change your status to a visitor to continue staying in Canada. That's what you can do. PR application along with my wife, 493. I will be at 506 without accompanying. Lawyer said I should create another profile. Should I do it or is it illegal? Creating another profile or creating multiple profile is illegal as far as IRCC is concerned. They've said it very categorically to not create multiple profiles. It just sort of inflates the pool, gives wrong impressions to people as to how many people are there in the pool. So choose one option, whichever direction you wish to go, and then create a profile as per that. Do I need to show funds for non-express BCPNP? Well, there is no requirement as such, but I always encourage people to include proof of funds to establish that they would be able to settle in Canada. Nothing here, Arshdeep, sorry. Eligible for remote work in Canada, in India on Canada SP. Eligible for remote work in India on Canada SP. Eligible for remote work. So if you are in India, of course, you can work for a Canadian employer. There is no problem. It counts as foreign work experience, doesn't count as Canadian experience. Forgot to add private limited in the employer name post ITA changes. It doesn't matter. Yes, post ITA, you can make that change in your PR application and add that private limited. It's not a problem. Don't worry about it. Can I submit duplicate application for work permit extension with proper application? I don't know what you mean by that. I have not be seen getting AOR after much attempt. So can I submit online? Employer needs AOR. Can I submit duplicate application for work permit extension with proper application with paper app? Oh, with paper app. Okay, got it. So your work permit had expired earlier. You made a new application for extension because your passport had expired. Now you've done it. You've done a paper application. You don't have an AOR. Your employer needs it. You want to apply online. Technically, yes, you can make an online application. If you just want an AOR to show your employer, yeah, you can do it. But even when you do an online application, make sure you let them know that you have done a paper application, but you haven't heard back from them. You're quite worried, and that's why you're making a new application. Any update on caregiver or home support worker program? Unfortunately, at this point of time, there is no update on this at all. We expect probably by first quarter that this update should come out. For this program, they have already assigned, I think about 5,000, no, not 5,000. There are a few thousand people already assigned under the immigration levels plan. So the program should definitely come probably first quarter next year. Have 7.5 years of IT experience in India, did 2 PG courses, currently on postgraduate work permit, approved Feb 24, have 6 months of CAD experience, company filed bankruptcy, 90% people laid off, suggest a smart move. Change your employer and continue to work so that you can add to that 6 months of Canadian work experience. Probably that's something which should be done. Yeah, that's what you will do, right? Yeah, and your cumulative Canadian work experience will count as when you complete 1 year, it will count as 1 year. So you already have 6 months, complete 6 months with a different company, it will count as 1 year. For Canadian, if that's what you're worried about, I think, because for Canadian work experience, it doesn't have to be continuous. A friend had changed his name in India, did soft landing in Ontario, got sent PR card in the new name. He's in India now and for some reason wants to go back to his old name. Will it impact his PR? Wow. Yeah, it will not impact his PR. He will just need to make those changes again on his PR card, on his passport, etc. And once he makes those changes, then yeah, he will get a new PR card with that new name. But yeah, that's how it will impact. It doesn't impact his PR status. It just requires him to complete all these additional documentation. I've been a junior software developer earning salary. Job Bank Canada minimum wage for this role is 28. Should I change my job title to web development where the minimum wage is 20? It doesn't matter. Uh, if you're asking about express entry, your minimum wage, does it meet the minimum wage for that job role in Canada or not? That doesn't matter. As long as you're meeting the minimum wage for the province and that location for that matter, then that's all that matters. It won't matter for that particular. So your knock code doesn't have to be changed because of your salary. Your knock code should always be related to your job description, and that's what matters. Can non-continuous foreign work experience be used to claim extra points in CEC category? Once you're eligible in CEC, then yes, even if it is non-continuous, your foreign work experience will add up and it will give you those required points. I received ITA, but I can't find 5406. Additional family information tab to complete. Does everyone fill that form? If you've received an ITA, means you're in express entry. In express entry, there is no 5406 to complete. So I'm not sure why you are worried or concerned about this. This is what happens when you read too many forums and chats and groups, and you get confused as to what they're talking about. 5406 is not a requirement in express entry. If IRCC needs it because you might have missed some information, then they will ask you for it. Express entry is all online forms. So when you're completing your application online, those are the forms that you're completing. 5406 is instilled within that form. It's under the family information section and your personal details. I've submitted my LMIA-based PR application 3 months ago. It's still in progress. Does new change of LMIA impact my application? Well, I do not know what you mean by you have submitted your LMIA-based PR application. So, okay, so you've received your ITA, you've submitted your PR application. In my opinion, I don't think the applications that have already been submitted and are in progress will be impacted. It will only be the new LMIAs that will be impacted. Excuse me. Closed work permit, CEC received AOR. Now employer is asking me to go back to India. Can I do bio and medicals from India? Does this affect my job offer points? Do I need to be present in CA throughout the period? Well, difficult one to answer because so first one, you can do your biometrics and medicals in India, no problem. If you are no longer working in Canada, and if your employer is no longer supporting you with a job offer in Canada, then once IRCC identifies that, they can choose to withdraw your 50 points for the job offer. If IRCC doesn't identify that, and if you're just traveling back and forth, then it's not a problem. You don't need to be present in Canada throughout the period, but you certainly will need to be in Canada when they are finalizing your application for ECOPR. Nothing here. Anand says, why would they ask for a CV resume with ADR if my PR program does not even score work history? What in an application could trigger this? Different things. This is usually required to identify your timeline with regards to your background. A lot of times people miss out on information when they're completing their PR application. So they ask for a resume or your CV where they can identify when have you completed your education, what kind of work experiences do you have, and is it matching with the information you have included in your application. That's usually why it would trigger. Applied for a TRV, but he forgot to upload my status implicit letter as proof of status. He just uploaded my invitation letter. What he should do? I don't know what we are talking about here. Applied for TRV, but he forgot to upload my status. Who applied for TRV? Who was the TRV application for? Whose status are we talking about? Well, honestly, I don't understand the question here, but if you have forgotten any documents to be uploaded, then you can always use the web form and upload the document using the web form. And you can explain in the web form itself as to what you are trying to do here, because honestly, I don't understand what exactly has been missing and what you're trying to do here. But you can use the web form to explain to IRCC why was it missing, what is missing, and what you're trying to add here. Can I apply for express entry with 4 months work experience for Francophone pool? I did a master's in Quebec, left for almost 2 years and came back to work. I have 1 year and 3 months left postgraduate work permit. Unfortunately not, because in order to be eligible in Express Entry, you should have at least 1 year of work experience. Could be foreign work experience, could be Canadian experience, but you have to have that 1 year of work experience first. Only then you're eligible in Express Entry, and only then, of course, depending on your French scores, you would be eligible under the Francophone category. Nothing here, nothing here. What happened to your what happens to your spouse's spousal work permit after your PR gets approved? Applied for my permanent residency with non-accompanying spouse. Nothing happens. The work permit continues to be valid until its expiry date, and your spouse can continue to work until its expiry date. Nothing happens to it. Does a visitor record count as in Canada focus? My CRS is 508, but my postgraduate work permit will expire in Feb 2025. Well, yes, it does. The in Canada focus doesn't mean whether you are physically in Canada or outside Canada. In Canada focus at this point of time, the way we understand, is reflective of your Canadian work experience. So if you're eligible in CEC, you have 1 year of Canadian work experience within the last 3 years, then you technically would be included as in Canada focus, regardless of whether you are physically in Canada or outside Canada. As per trends, Ottawa and Sydney offices are slow. Year-end quota also impacting issuing of P1 and P2. LMIA removal would affect existing AORs. LMIA removal will not affect existing AORs, in my opinion. I think LMIA points will only impact new LMIAs or the applications which are still in the Express Entry pool, so they may lose the LMIA points. Now, as much as we are all very excited about this LMIA business and the LMIA points, in my opinion, I think it may, I do not know, again, it might have already happened because they may have already been wanting to remove these points for quite some time, but there has to be some changes that have to be made within the Express Entry within the GC keys or within the GCMS system, so that the points can be removed. The Express Entry, as of right now, the way it has been designed, the way the point system is designed, it gives you points, right, when you enter the information. So they will have to go back and remove those factors. Now, for some, it will give you points. For example, arranged employment, if you're on an ICT closed work permit, Francophone closed work permit, international mobility closed work permits, any of those, CUSMAs, NAFTAs, if you're in any of those closed work permits, if you're completing 1 year, you should still get your points 50 or 200 depending on your knock code or your job offer under the arranged employment. Because all this while, Mark Miller has been saying we are removing points for LMIA. They're not saying we are removing points for arranged employment or all the points under the arranged employment. So these changes have to still be made. At least I haven't seen those changes yet in the Express Entry. So those changes have to be made. And if we know anything about this system, last time when they tried to make the changes with the knock code, there was a huge technical glitch. That could also be a very big reason why Express Entry draw did not happen last week, because of all the technical glitches that might be ongoing within the system. That is one of the reasons they may not be conducting the draws at this point of time. In Express Entry, I mean, for CECs or whatever. So we haven't seen a draw in the last couple of weeks. So that could also be the reason. But these LMIA points will be impacted for the applications who haven't received an IT at this point of time. At least that's what I think. That's my opinion. But as I said, there is no clarity at this point of time. We will have to just wait until IRCC comes up with that information. I have worked 40 hours per week for 1 year. Second year, I worked less than 30 hours per week for 6 months and greater than 30, but CRA updated as 2 years and not able to change it to 1.6. Okay, so what is the question here? I'm not able to understand what the question here is. As far as CRA is concerned, so leave CRA aside. Okay, CRA, what it is updating of 2 year, not updating, we don't know. So just leave it aside. Talk about your Express Entry profile. In your Express Entry profile, please make sure you enter the information correctly. If you're entering the information correctly, then you would get points for, you would get points for the way you should be getting points. Again, honestly, I'm not able to understand the issue. You have 1 year, 40 hours per week. You have second year, less than 6 months. Less than 30 hours, and then greater than 30 hours for 6 months. But again, you're saying CRA. So we're not talking about CRA here. This is Express Entry. So please make the changes in your profile exactly as per the information that should be entered. And if you do get ITA, if you do get the ITA, just make sure you complete your exact period of work that you should be to claim your points. Only then continue with your application. Can I show funds in Indian account for non-express PNP? Yes, you can show funds in any account in any bank. Did master's degree in Canada, joined some Indian company in Canada, can I claim LMIA exempt 50 points provided I'm on an open work permit? No, unfortunately not. In order to claim LMIA exempt 50 points, you have to be on a closed work permit working for that employer for at least 1 year. My CRS will be 503. Can I expect IT around that month? I don't know, to be very honest. It will all depend on IRCC, how regularly they conduct their draws and what are the invitations that will be invited. I have received my P1. Does this mean my PR application is approved? How long does it take for ECOPR? Is there any delay in processing? The delay in processing is primarily only because they've already achieved the 24 targets. You should see the COPRs coming through by January onwards. Can anything go wrong after portal 1 waiting since 5 December? You're waiting since 5 December because I just explained the PR quotas for 2024 have been achieved. So you will start seeing the processing of the COPRs happening from early 2025. Currently in India, got my new passport, postgraduate work permit expiring in July. Will extend using new passport. Will that be straightforward extension? Which option to select for extension or anything I should be aware of? Well, if you have a shorter duration of postgraduate work permit and you now wish to extend after you have received your passport expiry, then please do a paper application. Of course, it's a straightforward. Your current work permit would indicate a remark that you have received a shorter duration of postgraduate work permit validity because of your passport expiry. So add a letter of explanation. Of course, provide the new passport copy and do a paper application because there is no provision to make an extension application online. So please do a paper application and add a letter of explanation while you are completing this application. ICT expired in November 24, applied for extension in June 24, received extension for 20 months only. Passport valid till 2032. How to make IRCC reconsider for 2 years? Well, you can raise a web form and request for reconsideration, number 1. Number 2, you can reapply with the explanation that you got a shorter duration the first time. My study completed, but I have TRB until 9/25. Can I leave Canada and come back if on postgraduate applied status or work permit approved when I am away? Yes, you can return back to Canada with the postgraduate work permit implied status. You can continue working even with the implied status for postgraduate work permits only. And if your work permit is approved by that time, then that is good. If not, then you can still come to Canada. You can explain to the officer that you have traveled and you are on an implied status. In Canada, on visitor record, CEC application in progress. Can I go home? Any changes I should do? You can certainly go home. No problem with this at all. No changes are required. If you're going to continue staying in your home country, you need to update IRCC that you have a change of residence and you need to update your address. That's all. No question here, no question here, no question here. I will be marrying a Canadian citizen. Congratulations. Would she have any issues sponsoring me for a PR? Is there anything specific we need to be concerned about? No, there is no issues at all. As long as you are able to prove that you have a genuine relationship and that you're not getting married only for the purpose of PR, that you are able to establish the proof of your relationship, then there is no issues at all. You can certainly make an application once you're married. Added parents and brother in family section. Should spouse and children be included? Should my child info be blank as parents are already submitted? You will, if your family information is already including, of course, your spouse and children, then you only need to include your parents and your siblings, and that's it. And under your child's section, the information is left blank because you as the parents are already included as part of the application. Is it possible to apply for new work permit before my postgraduate work permit expires in 1.3 years? So you have received a shorter duration of work permit, probably because of your passport expiry. Then in your case, yes, you can apply for extension earlier and request them to give you the extension as per your eligibility for 3 years. And of course, please make sure you have a renewed passport. So there's no question here for Ria. I was out of Canada for 7 weeks in the US. During these 7 weeks, I was working remotely with my Canadian employer from USA. I'm concerned if my 7 weeks will be considered as CEC experience. The work experience outside Canada, even if you're on leave working remotely for a Canadian employer, is not considered as Canadian experience. IRCC is categorically clear about that. Chances in OINP tech draws in coming days, I don't know. Fingers crossed. I hope it happens. Applying for visitor visa for sister-in-law, is it necessary for her to have her own funds to support the trip, or can I show my funds only? Will stock investment count? For any TRV application, it's always very important for the applicant itself to have sufficient funds. You showing funds does not really help. You transferring funds might also look like you're doing it only for the purpose of the visa applications, because if the person doesn't have strong financial stability, then that person can be seen as a person who might come to Canada and might work illegally or might not return back. So having funds in their own account is quite crucial. PR AOR received in September, no FD yet. Can I use, I do not know what you mean by FD here. Can I use the AOR to apply for Bridge Open Work Permit in case PR is rejected, or should I apply now? Well, if your PR is rejected, you can't apply for Bridge Open Work Permit. So if you wish to apply for a Bridge Open Work Permit, then you have to apply before the decision is made on your application. Can I re-enter Canada on my study visa expiring in September 25? I want to travel to India in April, May, and I want to attend my graduation. Is it risky without postgraduate work permit? No, it's not a problem. You can always travel. You can always explain to the border officer on your return that you are going to apply for postgraduate work permit, or that you have already applied for postgraduate work permit, and that after your studies, you are really homesick and you wanted to visit your family, and there is no problem with that at all. There was a public policy for open work permit in 2023. Instead of 18 months, I got 10 months despite of validity of passport was not expiring. Can I apply for extension by explaining that? Unfortunately not. IRCC was very, very clear that there is no extension provision available under these conditions, that if they have given you only 10 months, then that's what you get. Of course, you can apply for an extension if you wish to, but there is no provision under which they will be giving you any additional validity for work permit here, unfortunately. Currently on a visitor record status, an employer is genuine LMIA and was hoping to flagpole, but it ended. What can be done? Another option instead of going back? Well, at this point of time, while the flagpoling is to be ended, apparently there are still some port of entries where they're still allowing flagpoling. So it has been announced that they will be ending the flagpoling, yet it hasn't been ended in some, at least some port of entries. For example, Niagara, you might have a problem in Ontario, but Windsor and Kingston, you might still be able to get it done if you go there by Tuesday. So that is still a possibility. Always please do call CBSA or the port of entry in advance before you go there, so you have a clarity. But yes, in some port of entries, they are still allowing at this point of time. Can I show funds as wealth report of parents? They are in India and I'm in Canada, not applying for them in my BC, PNP, non-specific. No, funds in your parents' name or wealth report of your parents do not constitute as your proof of funds. How many times can you decline an ITA and still keep the 600 points from a PNP nomination when you automatically go back into the pool? As many times as you want to. However, it will be criminal to do that because it would be impacting so many other applicants who are waiting for their ITA. I mean, as long as your nomination is valid, as long as your express entry profile is valid, you can technically decline an ITA. Yeah, and you would still go back into the pool with your scores. I did my West back in India in 2019 with a degree and diploma. Then I came on student visa without showing my diploma. Can I add my diploma in my profile during my PR process? Well, the problem is that if you did not show or did not disclose some information in your study permit application, which was material means it could have impacted the decision of your application. And now you do it because you want to get advantage of those points, then please bear caution. Please tread with caution here, because if IRCC identifies it that you did not disclose it at that point of time and marks it as material misrepresentation, then you would be on very, very thin ice there, and it could be a serious problem. Currently on open work permit, applied for extension. What options do I have if open work permit gets rejected? well, then you can apply for restoration and reapply for another open work permit if you are still eligible. Of course, you cannot work once you get refused, or you can apply for a change of status with restoration to a visitor record, or of course, you can leave Canada as well. I have experience of food services supervisor, experience for 6 months, and technical sales representative for 6 months. Is this eligible in CEC? Yes, it is. Cumulatively, this is 1 year of experience and it is eligible in CEC. Last question, guys. Thank you. My dad married 10 years ago a lady whose son is an PR holder recently, but he's living with me since long time. Can I show him as my stepbrother? What kind of documentation you would need? You would need proof of at least one common parent. So your birth certificates would be required, and that would be enough to provide information that you are siblings or step siblings, and this would still be accepted. After business diploma, worked as a bookkeeper and food services supervisor, 475. If I work as a plumber for a year, am I eligible for trade draw? Any issues? No, it's not an issue. As long as you are qualified, eligible, you can show that you've been working as a plumber, then you would be part of the skill trade draw in Ontario, if this is in Ontario. And if this is part of the express entry draw, then you would be included there as well. No issues. I don't see any problem with this. Once again, guys, thank you so much for joining in. This is the link. In case I haven't been able to answer your questions, please, by all means, do post your questions in the comments section after this video. I will come back throughout the day today and tomorrow, and I will answer all those questions in the comment section. I know there are too many questions, and of course, the time is always limited. But if you wish to book a one-on-one consultation about your questions, then this is the link. This is the link. By all means, do that. And if you wish to hire us for your immigration applications, then this is the email address. Drop us an email. We'll be happy to represent you, be your authorized representatives for your PR applications. Once again, thank you for joining in. It has been my pleasure. I always love doing this, and I shall do it again, once again, next week. Until such time, please take care, and I shall see you next time. And of course, for everybody who's celebrating, wish you guys a very Merry Christmas, and for everybody else, Happy Holidays.